Welcome, early birds. We'll get started in a few minutes here. Welcome to Transforming the Close. We're going to cover some great content for you, as well as give you some examples of what an expedited close has meant for several nonprofits. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in about a minute. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
Hey, Brian, welcome.
Had a little emergency situation there. So.
Well, I hope all is well. Welcome, everyone. It is the top of the hour, and we are here to present Transforming the Close. We're joined by Linda Pinion and Brian Wilton. I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. If you have questions, please use the Q&A function within a Zoom webinar, and don't be shy. We're happy to answer any and all questions that you have. And if we don't have the answers, we'll get back to you later. We are offering 1 CPE credit for your attendance at this webinar. However, to be eligible for CPE credit, all poll questions must be answered. So following the webinar, you will receive 1 email from me, and that will contain slides, a recording of the session, and a link to the survey, and give me up to 48 hours to get that out to you. The recording takes a little bit of rendering. But then there's a second email if you are looking to receive CPE credit, and that is administered by our sister company, which is an accounting firm. And they ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive your CPE credit. If you don't receive it within 2 weeks, you can contact well, Nicole's email is here, Nicole Brinson at LBMC. But when you get the follow-up email from me, Dawn Westerberg, you can follow up with me and I will track down your CPE certificate for you. So, Brian, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dawn, and hello, everyone. And again, welcome to the presentation today. I hope you find it educational, and you probably will see some things here that maybe you haven't seen before. So maybe you don't have access to in your current system, and it's hard to believe it's mid-August, and so which means we're headed towards fall again. But go ahead, Dawn, to the next slide there. And so just a quick kind of overview of what LBMC Technology Solutions really is involved in. So we're focused on accounting systems today, kind of the ERP or enterprise resource planning button there. And that's what we're mostly discussing today. And, everything that flows through a company at some point generally ends up in the general ledger. And so the accounting system is the heartbeat of any organization. And so that's what we're going to kind of take your attention to. But really, that's just a piece of what we do. It's a big piece, I will say that, but it's really just a piece. And so we offer lots of other technology related help for small to mid-sized businesses. Things like cyber attack protection. So you all see the ransomware and how rampant that's running out there, unfortunately. And so we help protect companies against those things. We work with your current IT team if you have one, or your outside provider if you have one, and kind of many times act as a backup when those folks need to take a day off or a week or two off. And so we'll step in and can kind of back that team up, or support them if they need any kind of expertise where we don't touch anything. We just kind of act as advisors. That's kind of dovetails into, we do a lot of kind of chief information officer, chief technology officer type roles, where we kind of act as those. A lot of small companies don't have a CIO or a CTO, nor do they need one, but sometimes they need somebody just to kind of fill that role once in a while and kind of bounce ideas off of, or just get a second opinion, kind of second set of eyes sometimes on things. So we do lots of that. We help a lot of nonprofit organizations move to the cloud. So accounting, ERP, which again, I mentioned, that's kind of a big one, but we help them move their other infrastructure to the cloud. Sometimes things need to stay kind of in the office, but you don't necessarily want those things, those servers in the office. So we can park those up in Microsoft's Azure cloud or Amazon's cloud if that's a better deal. And so we do lots and lots of that for folks as well. We do a lot of Microsoft licensing, so we handle a lot of Microsoft licenses for folks that we don't do anything else for, but we can generally negotiate pretty good pricing from Microsoft for things even like Office. And so we have a lot of clients that's all we do, is just handle their Office licensing. Automation, you might not know exactly what that is, but just think about workflow, and workflow really can touch just about any process in an organization. And of course, nowadays, artificial intelligence is getting involved in workflow. And so that's really taken workflow and automation to a really high level. And so we're doing a lot of work around that. And then lastly is kind of the integration and software development. Lots and lots of integration work happens out there. We don't generally develop something from scratch unless there's just literally no other way to get there. We can build something, but a lot of that department is really involved in bringing data from other systems into the core accounting system. In this case, we're talking about Sage Intacct. And there's really about 75% of Sage Intacct customers have 2 or more integrations that are in play. And so it's very common now. In the general rule, from my viewpoint, is pretty much anything can be integrated into the system. And sometimes we have to create a place to park that data. But integration is every client we have has some type of integration running out there. And so kind of close this out, we have about 130 people that get up every day thinking about how can we help small businesses get better and leverage and maximize their investment in technology and stay safe with all the threats that are going on out there. And so that's really kind of in short form what LBMC Technology Solutions offers and does for our clients. So Dawn, you can move us forward there.
Great. So today's session is being sponsored by Use. They're picking up the tab for the processing of our CPE credits. And so we're very happy to have them as our sponsor. They have a wonderful solution. And Sam Haney is here to talk about what Use can do for your nonprofit organization.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. I've said yesterday, this is my 5 minutes of fame. I get 5 minutes to talk about Use, but we're a partner with LBMC, and we work with their clients and future clients to automate their accounts payable process. But a little bit about Use and me. I've been with Use for over a year now. I'm an account executive here, and I'm on the Sage team. On this slide, the most important thing I like to focus on, one, we were born in the cloud in 2010. So sticking on that cloud-based theme, but really we have 1,700 plus Sage clients globally. And so we work very closely and are very well known in the space. but we contribute back into our own solutions based on what our Sage clients say. So you can see that 25% of the money that we make goes back into just constantly getting better for our clients and providing the best solution on the market. So our main focus, and Brian said it in what his buttons were for LBMC, but automation is key, right? Is to get rid of those pain points that you might be seeing now where you're manually hand entering the data for every single invoice, or maybe hand matching to purchase orders, and then chasing down discrepancies with vendors to reconcile, the issues there. We would take all of that over for you at Use. We would do the matching, we would route based on the workflow that, again, Brian mentioned. So whatever workflow, if you want the discrepancies to go back to the buyer, we can do that. And obviously the pain points of just real-time visibility, right? Like if you send an invoice to get an approval and then it's 2 weeks later and you still don't have that back, so you're chasing it down. Within Use, you have that visibility and the reporting there. And then obviously, especially in the nonprofit space, just the compliance and staying up to date on those compliance issues, and making sure that your finances and your accounting piece are all compliant with those. And so we follow these best practices with automation. We look to optimize your current process, make things quicker. So our typical reduction from a 30-day invoice processing all the way to payment, we reduce it to 6. With automation and our fully technology-based AI solution. And then integration, like we said, with Intact and with Sage in general, we have one of the best API integrations on the market. It would be a mirror image of your Intact environment. And then obviously it enhances the collaboration and communication. Like I said, when that 2 weeks, passes and you're still looking for an invoice that you sent to a department head, you would have that visibility and be able to communicate directly within Use. So you wouldn't have to toggle between tech stacks and emails and downloads. All of that can be housed within Use. So it enhances the collaboration and communication aspect of just the accounts payable. So it's less hair pulling and more strategic initiatives there. And lastly, just a glimpse of what we do from the purchase. So we do have a purchase order module. So maybe you're growing and you want to add POs to your process. We can facilitate that within Use, and then automate that workflow. So you see that no touch. Our goal is, for you to create and understand your business well enough that if an invoice comes in and it meets all of your criteria, I don't need people to touch it necessarily. I can just send it for the final step of approval and all the way to pay, which we do offer a payment option as well to automate those payments so that, again, payments are sent quicker. Vendors have visibility into when their payments are being processed and coming to them. And we have different payment options for that. Is that my last slide? Yeah.
It is. So yeah, if you have any questions, here is Sam's contact information.
Awesome.
And any final words, Sam, before I go into our very first poll question?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And again, if you have any questions, I'd love to help out. And Dawn, I'll pass it back to you.
Great. So your MC is having difficulties with, oops. With trying to access the poll questions. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. Poll question number 1. How would you describe your current level of automation for closing your books? Number 1, fully automated. 2, semi-automated. 3, you're still burdened with a lot of manual or paper-based activities around the month-end close. And then we've got a category not sure if you yourself are not intimately involved in the close. So again, just a reminder, if you are here for CPE credit, one of the ways that we proved to NASBA that you were a full participant is in answering the poll questions. So I'll give it a few more beats, and I apologize again for the rough access of poll question number 1. But it looks like the majority, over half, are dealing with semi-automated processes, and then almost a third are looking at manual paper-based systems. So with that, we will move along. Bring up our next speaker.
And before Linda gets going, I'll just do a quick introduction here. Linda's worked with us at LBMC for many, many years. She spent 2.5 decades helping companies figure out the right software solutions and what really works for them and helps them get the most out of their software investment. And she does a lot of that work through partners like LBMC, but she is a veteran in the business, a veteran with Sage Intacct, and she really has been a tremendous asset to our team. And we're privileged and honored to have Linda today be our speaker and drive part of this presentation. So Linda, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much. So just a little quick sidebar here. Thank you, Sam, for partnering with LBMC, and thank you for being with us today. We love our partners, and they bring so much more to the solution when we all partner together. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Brian and Dawn. And as Brian mentioned, I have been engaged with LBMC for many years. There's no activity or event or challenge that they can't handle around any of your financial or tax needs. So thanks again for the opportunity today. Our whole focus today is really on understanding how we can help you streamline and automate processes around the month-end close. Before we get into product, I just wanted to set the stage for some of the things that you probably haven't thought about in the same way that you're going to see today. You know, there's a lot of continuous things that we want to do. We want to continuously improve. We want to have that flow of information go through our accounting system. We don't want it to get bogged down. We just want everything to be smooth and to run smooth. But one of the things that accounting teams and offices always want is they want a smooth close. And I was laughing a little bit to myself as Brian was chatting, because I used to be in an accounting office many years ago and was part of the close team. And when you were part of the close team, nothing else in your world mattered except the close. There were no vacations. You couldn't call in sick. You know, everyone was heads down, because in that period of time, when you said you were going to close the books, there were certain activities that just literally stopped. And so we've come a long way from that. Everything doesn't have to shut down and go away until the close gets done. However, with Sage Intacct, we wanted to focus on this concept of continuous close. So that's what I want to emphasize today, is that we're past those days of I enter a transaction today, I post it, but it doesn't show up for a day or two. And that means that I've got this limbo time frame that I'm working in. I'm not quite updated and I can't produce the reports and the financial statements that I need because transactions are not being posted live. They're in this la la land area. With Sage Intacct, everything that you're going to see and do in the product is real time and up to date. And there are some reasons why we can call that a continuous close, and I'll refer to that and talk more about that in a few minutes. So moving forward, why do we want to work with this concept of continuous close? So what's the why behind this? Well, the first one is around consolidation. Now, when you say the word consolidation, that means different things to different people. So always when you're talking about consolidation, you want to understand what type of consolidation are you looking at? What does that mean to you? What is your expectation? Because as an example, in Sage Intacct, we have different types of consolidation, whether that be domestic, global, or one that we call advanced ownership. The reason that you want to have that consolidation occurring constantly and continuously is because I may want to produce reports midweek, financial reports, and I want to make sure that I have all the information posted and up to date. If I'm still in this processing of entering a transaction and waiting 2 days for it to show up, then I can't really make a business decision on those reports and on those statements because they're truly not up to date. So automating that consolidation gives us the accurate information. It also allows us to work more efficiently and more strategically. And that's a real concept behind this, is that we know that C-level executives are tasked with streamlining and automating processes. So everything that we can automate with accuracy and trust in the data is going to contribute to what Brian said at the very beginning. All roads lead to the general ledger. So everything we can do in these downstream transactions to get them automated is going to ensure that we have the information that we need and it's accurate and up to date from a consolidation perspective. We know that having information that's accurate is so important, not only to the executives within the company, it's important to everyone. I can't do my job if I don't trust the information that I'm working with. So just making sure that I can access that information, that when I get to it, I trust it, and I know that it's real time and up to date. Now, there's a lot of automation going on. Sam mentioned it, Brian mentioned it, you're going to hear me mention it. And it's really all about making sure that not only do you have the right solution, but you have the right team to help you and guide you with that solution. Making sure that when your business processes or flows change, that the solution is flexible enough to make those changes, and that you have a partner that's going to help you take advantage of all the things that are being driven by technology, like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay? So there's a few common pain points in any month-end close. These are not going to be new things to you. I'm pretty confident that you all have experienced this and are still making changes and enhancements to improve your month-end process. But a lot of times the activities, the data, the information may not be coming from one place. So you have it in multiple systems. It's not integrated. And even once you get it together, there's still a little bit of angst as to whether you got it all, is it accurate, and did it consolidate together correctly. Some of that information more than likely is coming from Excel, and I would pretty comfortably say that a lot of it is going back out to Excel. So you've got spreadsheet, and I would just tell you that every accounting team, they are Excel gurus. They can make Excel do lots of things, stand on its head and go sideways. However, excuse me, we all know that once you get it in a spreadsheet, it's only good for that moment because the data and the activity behind it is continually moving, And so that spreadsheet's out of date. We also know that, as some of you indicated in the first poll, that there is an opportunity for you to be doing a lot of manual entry. And that manual entry and processing is what we want to try to eliminate as much as possible, and at the same time still give you the detail that you need. And then, of course, as I told my story, there's never enough people when it comes time to close the books. There's life happens, and you're working with this lean team of folks that are trying to hurry and get things done, and may not even be in the same location. And we know what happens when we're not together. We know that that causes sometimes errors and delays. We also know that when you hurry through things and you don't have a good process, that causes a lot of errors as well. The last, and of course, the most important, that's the information that you need. And how does that come to you? And is it in the format? Is it in the level of detail that you need? So those are just some of the things that people and companies and organizations are experiencing with a month-end process. Okay.
Hey, sorry about that. My
No, you're
trigger
fine.
my trigger finger got a little
Oh, they have a tendency to do that, Dawn. It's no big deal.
All right. This brings us up to our second poll question. And here we're asking you to identify the area of the close process that causes you the most angst. And even though I said most, I'm going to let you do multiples if there are several pain points that really drive you crazy. So if it's managing the process and the people and the assignments, if it's doing your everyday work with the close happening at the same time, if it's trusting the data and deliverables that have been produced, and organizing everything into one view, a complete packet that you can then have ready to present. And then you might just have just unicorns and rainbows, and there's no angst, but just peace and harmony. So we'll give you a few more minutes to respond to that.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I want to go with the peace and harmony and rainbows and unicorns. And
Yeah, I'll take that every day if I can get it.
I would have taken it, today's Thursday. I would have taken it for the past 3 days for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the results are in.
Okay.
And doing my everyday work with the closing happening at the same time, 77% of our audience is really struggling with that. But close behind that at 62% is managing the process, the people, the assignments. And then there's another 31% that talk about just organizing all of the information into a complete packet. So lots of pain going on, but I do have one person that is living in peace and harmony. It's so happy that there's at least someone.
Yes, absolutely. We need to find out what pill they're taking or what they're drinking, I guess, to all get on that same diet. So thank you for answering the poll. It's always interesting. Sometimes Brian and I even bet on, who's going to walk away as the winner here. But
Yeah,
thank you so
that's right.
much.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All
All
right. So
right, so
Dawn, I'm going to
I'm
turn
going
my
to
camera
stop.
off.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Linda.
Okay. All right. So let me share. And Dawn, can you just validate that you can see my screen okay?
There it is. It just populated.
Yeah. It's trying to be a little bit draggy today, so if that happens, just let Dawn know in the chat box, and we'll try to keep moving forward here. All right, so thank you again for the opportunity to share Sage Intacct with you. If this is your first time to see it, there's a whole lot of information on this screen. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it today. However, I'm trusting that you may have some questions and want to see some follow-up information, and the LBMC team will be happy to take care of that. But we're going to start out with something that leads right back to that poll, and that is having everything in one place and being able to see it and organize it and, really use technology to help do that. So let me tell you where I landed. I landed on what we call a dashboard. I've logged in today as the controller, and certainly all of your users can have permissions and security running in the background, making sure that they can only access the areas that they need to. But as the controller, I pretty much am super user here, and I have access to multiple dashboards. I'm going to share two of those with you today. The first one here is one that I created. These are designed by you, the business user. Very easy, kind of like the adult Etch-a-Sketch. You get to start out with a blank page, and you get to be creative and put what's important to you on your dashboard. Now, in this case, there's probably multiple people that would want access to this dashboard because there's usually people from every area of the business that are participating in that month-end close. What's going to help you is to understand what's important for you to know about month-end close, and then push that information right to this one place, this month-end close dashboard. Let me go through some of the components that are here and how you would use those. So one thing to keep in mind as I'm going through product, everything that I do, I want to do it in the most simple and efficient way. So any shortcuts that I can take from a navigation perspective or from a driving through the software, if you will, I want to make it as strategic as I can. So I have something over here on my dashboard called custom navigation. I know where I want to go on a regular basis within product. So I've just created what I'm calling a custom navigation component that allows me to just click on these hyperlinks and it'll take me right to those places in the software. So once you know where you're going to go on a frequent basis, that's one way to get to it. Another thing that I can do, and I've done this today, is I've created a bookmark menu. And this is a way for you to create a personal menu that, again, has a hyperlink into a certain place in the software. And that allows me to just move freely without having to menu travel. So again, just little things like that. When we talk about simple changes that can make it easier and faster for you, that's one of the ways. So if I come back here, it will bring me right back to that dashboard that we were looking at just a moment ago. The other thing that I have on my dashboard here is something called Sage Intacct Collaborate. You'll see me refer to this again as we move forward. This is a way for you to communicate with other Sage Intacct users. You might think of it as a social media layer within Sage Intacct. So what you see here is a way for me to, let me ooch back up here, to add in a conversation and then share that conversation with any other user or with a group of users. So how many times when you're in month-end close do you have a question that maybe you want to ask a couple of people about? You can send that information to them here through Collaborate, as opposed to calling them, emailing them, texting them, running over to their office or cubicle. Now, two things happen. One, you do that at the moment that you need to ask that question. There's no waiting, there's no sticky notes. And the second thing is, it is documented here in the software. So how many of you can remember what you did 3 months ago or even 3 weeks ago? This is a way for you to self-document a transaction, and not only will you be able to get to it, but when the auditors ask you about it, you'll be able to get back to that information. It's all stored historically, and they're just for you to view and to act upon. Now, in this example, this is just about a journal entry, and it was actually a reminder to myself, Carla, being a controller, that she wants to make sure that she reminds herself that she needs to set this up as a recurring entry. So again, just being able to see that when I click on this batch, it's a hyperlink to that transaction. So now here's the transaction, and here is the documented conversation. So again, just a little simple way, going to save you a little bit of time, and it's going to accomplish so much because it's going to have that history there that you can go back and look at. The next thing, and this ties again to the poll, what we were asking is, we already have a handwritten manual checklist that we work from. We've worked from it for many years now, and we just scratch things out and put things in. Now we have a better way to do it within product. You can access what we call checklist. You can set those checklists up, and then you can assign those activities to individuals. You can keep track of whether or not they've completed them. You can create as many checklists as you choose to. They can be for anything that you want the checklist to be. It could even be a checklist to ramp new employees for onboarding. So these checklists are helpful to keep you on track and to know where you're at in that process or flow. I've created one for month-end close checklist, and I've placed it here on this dashboard. You also might want to have visibility here to see what journal entries need to be approved. There's a full workflow process in the background for many things, not just journal entries, but journal entries specific to month-end close, and being able to see if there's anything you need to approve or pass on to the next person in the workflow. How do you know what's been closed and what hasn't been closed? Maybe you're using a system today where it's all or none. You either close everything or you close nothing. In Sage Intacct, it can be by entity or fund, if that's the term that you're using for entity. And it can also be by application. So within my entity 100, it looks like I haven't done a whole lot of closing here, but this gives me that bird's eye view. I don't have to call anybody or try to remember, oh yeah, I did that. Oh no, I didn't do that. So just another help like that checklist is. And then the other thing that you might want to see on this dashboard is some of the reports that you just run as part of your reconciliation and your close process, like the trial balance, like, the general ledger. I will remind you, if this is your first time to see Sage Intacct, you may not know that anything in blue is drillable, which means I can click on any of this and it will take me right into the transaction level. So again, I don't need to go dig in the filing cabinet to find this information. I've got it at my fingertips. And then the last one down here is the allocation journal. So let's talk about allocations for a moment, because allocations are something that are typically part of that close. It's something that you are not doing until the end of the month. So being able to automate that is something that you can do in Sage Intacct. So when you set up those allocation definitions and those allocation rules, when the allocation runs, there are several reports that you can produce from that information. And it's easy to put all of that on its own dashboard, which is what I've done here. This is the monthly views of allocations. So as an example, if you are allocating and wanting to distribute out the fringe cost, you've got that here. So you've got, in fact, this report's going to show you the before and after. So it shows you this is what it was before we allocated, 0. And then we did the allocation, and then here is what it is after the allocation. So, just keeping in mind that this is another step that we get to the first week of the next month, and we're all in scramble mode trying to get all these things buttoned up so we can run our initial reports before we actually say, yep, we're ready to go. This is another automated process that you can set up in Sage Intacct. And then again, putting it in a separate view helps us have that real-time access and visibility. The next thing that I want to go back to and just make sure that you walk away with today, we are structured different. And when I say we're structured different, our chart of accounts is different from many of the other chart of accounts that you might see in the market. We do not have a segmented chart of accounts. We have a non-segmented chart of accounts. We also have the ability to share this chart across unlimited numbers of entities. So let's go back to terminology for a moment. An entity is the same thing as a company. So I use those interchangeably. And we also, in nonprofit, see that being changed from a terminology perspective to fund. If you think about entity and company, it's typically a separate tax ID. So just know that you have a way to set those up individually and then to consolidate them together. Now, that is the key word. If I had 3 entities or 3 funds in Sage Intacct, we would be using what we call a multi-entity configuration that is shared. And when we share it, that means we're all using the same chart of accounts. So no matter what fund I am posting a transaction to, if I'm posting to account 1100, I am posting to the same 1100 each time I key in an entry. What makes that different is when I key in that transaction, I indicate what fund I am posting this transaction to. Because we're all using the same chart of accounts, every time I post a transaction, it is performing that continuous consolidation, that continuous updating of real-time information. So when I get to the end of the month, I don't have to do some fireworks or some lengthy process to consolidate. I'm consolidated every moment. And just to give that one more step, let's go back to dashboards for just a moment, and let's go into a role-based dashboard for a controller. So if you are that financial person, you're the controller, the vice president of finance, this might be a dashboard that you would be using all the time, as well as that month-end dashboard. And what this is showing me is real-time information. So as soon as Dawn posts an AP bill, it's going to update this general and administrative expenses bucket. So when I drill into this, I'm going to see all the detail in my report. And then if I have a question, let's say about the office supplies, I can drill into that and I can see in the ledger where that $41,000 came from, and I can drill right into the transaction. Drilling into that transaction, this is what I was referring to just a moment ago. Let me move this little guy over. I've got too much going on my screen here. There we go. Oops. Got a really good view that time. I think I got everything on steroids. All right, so if you look down here at the what I call the transaction line or the coding, I've coded that to my account from my chart of accounts. I've tagged it to the fund and to restrictions, department, site, project, or grant. So this is what is controlling where this transaction gets posted. The minute I hit the post button, this happens to be a posted entry, but the minute I hit the post button, all of that's going to get updated into my general ledger. So I have that information immediately in the ledger. It's immediately available for a financial report or for anything that you saw on that dashboard that we just came from. So it's really easy for you to be able to look at that information and know that it's accurate and it's up to date, because the minute it got posted, that's exactly where it landed. Let me see if I can get rid of this. There we go. Those floating controls always want to mess me up. All right, so let's come back and let's take a look at a journal entry. So several things that are going to help us really speed up the process. Again, we're going to use things like that bookmark menu so we can go exactly where we want to go, or we're going to use that custom navigation. What we also want to do is we want to look at, closing the books. It's a menu option, so it's very easy for us to find that. Getting back to our chart of accounts right here from our overview map takes us right into our chart. Here, where we create a journal entry, there's several things we can do here that make our month end faster. First of all, we can set up journal entries that automatically reverse. We can also set up journal entries that are inter-company or inter-entity. That's going to help us as well, because once we set that up as an inter-entity, Sage Intacct is going to allow us to transact across funds within the same transaction and then create due tos and due froms automatically for us. So another way to just keep everything going. We have a multi-journal solution. So you can set up as many journals as you want to. Why is that important? It's easier to reconcile. You've got a smaller amount of transactions. We want that fast reconciliation because that's something that has to be done before we can actually close the books. In addition to that, we want to help you from the standpoint of, let's just say, and Brian pointed this out earlier, let's just say that you have other solutions that you want to bring data in from. And bringing that data in means that we want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. So we're going to use AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to look at those entries that are coming in and see if there's any issues with them. And if there are issues, before you approve them and post them, we want to alert you to that. So this is an example of just that. We're bringing in a payroll journal. We do our payroll with an outside payroll firm. They send us that information in, and we want to get it to the ledger in Sage Intacct. When we brought that in, we got this message that said there's some unusual matches here, and we're going to point those out to you so that you can go in and review them before you post and approve. So based on that message, we can see down here that we've got something that doesn't look quite right, and it's flagged it as a coding error. And what you see here is when it brought it in, it used technology to say, here's what we call a GL outlier, and it's flagged that to say that this account needs a department. And this combination that we see here is one that we haven't seen before. So we're going to encourage you to go look at it before it gets posted and approved. That way you don't have to go back and correct something or undo something because it was incorrect when it came through. So we call that GL outlier, again, saving you steps along the way. I know that Sam has talked to you about AP automation. We also have AP automation in Sage Intacct. And what we are allowing your vendors to do is to send us those AP bills either through an email or through a scan. And then we're going to bring those bills in. We're going to bring them in a draft mode. And we're going to do basically the same thing that we do on those journal entries. We're going to check to see what's happening, why it's not got all the information that it needs. In this case, that particular account needs a project or grant. So we bring the bills in, we don't immediately post them. That means you don't have to manually enter that bill. And we're catching any of those coding mishaps, and we're allowing you to fix that before you get that transaction posted. So again, another way to speed up that process. One of the other things we take advantage of is what we call the Sage Banking Cloud, which automates and helps to streamline your bank reconciliation. And I would just tell you, no one loves to do bank recs, and they are part of that closing process at the end of the month. So if we can get those done faster, then you're not waiting at the end of the month to get that done. Your transactions, you're connected to the bank. Your transactions will be sent to you every 4 hours. And after that, you'll be able to do a bank reconciliation. So literally every day you could do one. What we also use technology for is to match those transactions. And we do that with what we call a matching rule. And you can set up those matching rules so that everything possible gets matched up. And then all you are working with that last week of the month is just a few transactions. Again, making sure that we're streamlining everything that we can. And then the last thing I want to share with you is how do we take all of this and put it together and wrap it up and put a bow on it and send it to our stakeholders, to our board members. And we do that through all of the great reporting that we do in our financial reporting and our custom reporting. And then we look at what is it that we need to bundle up and send to them. And we use the report scheduler. And in this case, I've created a report pack. And what I've done is I've said there are a few things that I want to put in this particular package. And in that package, I want to put certain reports. I pick out those reports, put them into what we call a report group, and then based on the scheduler, a start and end date and a frequency, it scoops it up in the background and sends it out to that delivery list. So just being able to really put together all of that information, get all that out to our particular stakeholders. Here's all the reports that I'm putting together and I'm sending them to the individuals, eliminates all of that. Print a report, email it, attach it, all of that, all of those steps go away. So in closing, that's a few of the ways that you can utilize Sage Intacct to help you improve your month-end close. So Dawn, I'm going to let you take it back. And as she's bringing us back, I'm going to cover just some real quick wins of what is available for you to be able to get that month-end close improved. So don't forget that we looked at that continuous close. We looked at the ability to create checklists and to assign activities and tasks to people, creating those dashboards, making sure that you have everything in one place. That's a huge effort, is putting everything in one place and giving people access to the information that they need. We just looked at the scheduler and being able to see exactly what we want to put in a report pack and send that to our stakeholders. And then certainly, you know, being able to always take advantage of all of the technology and automation, whether it's AP automation or something with the allocations, being able to do that. All right, so thank you so much. I think we're moving to our next poll.
Okay, and you're done with the quick wins?
I am.
Okay, you're so fast and so good.
They're quick, right?
Um, so before I poll question, I would like everyone to take a look in the chat and you'll find a link to a survey. And the good folks at Use are offering a $250 Amazon gift card. It's part of a drawing. So if you submit your survey before midnight tonight, you'll be placed into a drawing for the $250 Amazon gift card. So please take a look in the chat and access that. Obviously, that's just for people who not just registered, but actually attended the webinar.
I think we
Oops.
don't get to play, Brian.
No, I
Nope.
think you're right.
Nope. Unfortunately,
We're
I
barred.
can't either. All right. So here's our third poll question. And Brian mentioned at the very beginning that at LBMC Technology Solutions, we have 130 people who are working in our tech group. And one of the things that we would like to offer you is what we call a lunch and learn all about you. And what we do is we can do this virtually. We can, if you're in one of our office locations, we can do it in person. But most people do this virtually. And what we do is we arrange to have lunch sent to your team, those that would be on the meeting with one of our experts to talk about what all of the things that Linda has presented today, what it would mean specifically for your organization. So what I'm offering here is an opportunity to kind of put you on a priority list if you'd like that to happen. And we'd be more than happy to set up a time. And there's no obligation to this. And lunch is on us. And we would be happy to talk about what your technology needs are going forward. So, and also if you are here for CPE, please just select one of the answers in order to be eligible for CPE. So thank you. All right, that's done. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Don, and thanks, Linda, for that great walkthrough there. I just wanted to highlight a couple of client stories that kind of came to mind. And at LBMC, we have about a third of our customers that are in the nonprofit space. And those range from, well, you see the Nashville Zoo, so obviously that's one, but they could be faith-based or other ministries, a lot of nonprofit that's healthcare related, member organizations, private schools, and then a variety of other things, humane societies, chambers of commerce or similar kind of governmental organizations. We have a number of Red Cross, kind of goodwill type organizations as well. And so we do lots and lots of work kind of in that nonprofit space. But I want to specifically call out the zoo. You can kind of see some of the facts here, but they have moved to the Intact product, which you've seen today, a number of years ago off a legacy kind of on-premises solution, and saved quite a bit of money in just being able to analyze their spending better. And so that was kind of a big win for them. But the middle kind of gray box there really relates to what we're talking to today. And they've actually been able to cut their monthly close down by 50%. So half the time it used to take them, it takes them today. And so that was a huge win for the zoo. And then just kind of a byproduct of all of this, their finance team, they feel like, is about 30% more efficient than what they were, just because of the handling paper a lot less. And Linda mentioned Excel and so forth, getting rid of a lot of that and having kind of that real-time data at their fingertips. Another one that kind of came to mind when we were talking about this is a longtime client of ours out of Atlanta. Also have a facility and a number of their finance folks in LA. That's Operation Hope. And so if you were at Sage, well, you probably weren't at Sage Transform, but if you happen to have been there for whatever reason, maybe you're a current customer or user, you would have seen Michael Smith, who's their CFO, on the main stage this past spring. But they were early adopters of this outlier detection that Linda kind of showed, where she was getting a message on that entry, that coding entry, that was telling her, hey, there's a missing department, I think, in the example she used. So Operation Hope really jumped in kind of with both feet on that, because that was a huge issue they were dealing with, is miscoded transactions. And so they're using this artificial intelligence now from Sage through the Intact product, and they have told us they virtually eliminated 100% of their coding errors. And so they are they were really happy to have that available in their solution. And of course, they also saved a ton of time with their closing, and you know, they're pretty tech savvy. They're comfortable with the artificial intelligence, and they're really trying to maximize that for the organization. And Michael Smith, their CFO, again, kind of in the red box, gave us this quote and said that the artificial intelligence is not there to replace any of you in the accounting chairs, but it's really there to help you. And that's a really good way to look at AI. It's not going to take your job probably in any of our lifetimes, but it will provide you immediate help that you will grow to love and come to rely on. So, and then I think, Dawn, we've got a number of other things in here. I won't go through these, but the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, DonorsChoose.org, all other customers that are really maximizing the benefit out of Sage Intact, and then the Brevard Zoo as well. So anyway, hopefully you've seen something today that might have piqued your interest, and we might be able to answer further questions with. But I think we're at, I think, our last poll question, Dawn.
It is, and we do have a question
Okay.
Angela is asking
Mhm.
if your GL is not segmented, how do you account for different programs, departments separately, which is required for many governmental grants?
Yes, I answered in the chat, but I'm going to answer out loud to everyone here.
Mhm.
So, dimensions is the answer. Dimensions are when I was on that transaction line and I said we tagged this to a fund and to a specific department, those are dimensions. Those dimensions are unlimited in Sage Intacct. So you would have a dimension for department, you'd have a dimension for program, you'd have a dimension for restricted that was, restricted, not restricted, temporarily. So you can determine the valid types of restrictions, the valid departments, the valid funds. As you build that transaction line out, that's what's telling the story of the transaction. You know that it's for office supplies. You know it's for this particular program. You know it's for this particular department. And then those dimensions become filters for all of your reporting. So it's very, very robust, very granular reporting to the level that you need.
And I will say, to sit on top of what Linda just provided there, our clients that have had ERP solutions for, many, many decades now and are used to that segmented chart of accounts with the dashes, that's what segments mean. And they've got these big, long account strings that they either have to look up all the time or heaven forbid, key them in or part of them in. Um, Certainly not memorized, but some people end up doing that. They really enjoy the dimensionality of Sage Intacct. And if you think about where those dashes are, anything kind of after your or before your kind of main account, those all just fall to dimensions, and they really have an easy time kind of transitioning from that segment to those dimensions, and they really do enjoy that. So I think Linda and I are both big fans of the dimensionality feature in the more modern solutions.
We've had people take a chart of accounts from 3,000 accounts to 300
Yeah, yeah.
because you don't have to create all of those different combinations. So
Yeah.
you reduce the number of accounts. I like to say you get a lean and mean chart of accounts.
Yeah, very common to skinny that down.
Yeah.
Great. The final poll question is up. I think we've had everybody answer that's going to answer, but I'll give it a few more beats in case you were looking away. After this session, what will you do first? Will you share with others on your team that could not attend what was covered here? Will you take inventory of your current processes and think about, is there a better way to do things? Meet with other managers to review your strategic plan, or something totally different? So with that, I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to take one last check. I don't think there are any other questions in the Q&A or the chat. It doesn't look like it. So Linda, Sam, Brian, thank you so much for sharing today. It was a great session. I learned a lot, and I hope that our audience did as well. We're going to be having another nonprofit webinar in October. And that is going to focus on inventory. So if you're an organization that has a gift shop, or if you are a healthcare organization and you have supplies that you share with other departments or other clinics, if you have inventory of any sort, that's going to be a webinar that you won't want to miss. So again, Brian, Sam, Linda, thank you. And we'll see you in a couple months.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Done.
Bye, guys.
Bye.